I woke up, reaching for my phone on the nightstand, and touched the glass I'd left downstairs. That was the moment I understood I had been watching the wrong door this whole time. At first, my mind tried to convince me that it was all okay and that I was half asleep. The room was dark. The hallway light slipped under my bedroom door in a thin yellow line, the way it had every night since I moved into that house. My hand was still on the glass, cold, empty, standing on the nightstand. I didn't move for a few seconds. I only stared at it, trying to understand how something I had placed in front of the basement door before going to bed was now beside me, close enough that I could have knocked it over in my sleep. Then the house gave one small creak above my head, not below, but above. How strange, I thought. I remembered the first thing the owner had said when she showed me the chapel. Very old, she told me, as if age explained everything. I had gone to Portugal for research. That was the reason I gave people, and it was true enough. I was studying old rural chapels in the north, the small private ones built into family homes or tucked beside village houses, the kind people pass every day without thinking much about what used to happen inside them. The rental looked perfect online. Stone walls, narrow windows, a small garden with a chair and table, a private chapel attached to the left side of the house. A chapel built into the rental itself. Isn't it wonderful? For my project, that felt almost too lucky. In person, standing outside with my suitcase, it felt less like luck and more like I was part of the opening of a haunted house movie. It sat on a quiet road where every sound carried. A dog barked behind a wall. A scooter turned somewhere out of sight. My suitcase wheels dragged over uneven stones. The house itself was pale and sun-warmed, with old walls that had been repaired in too many places to count. The chapel was smaller than it looked in the pictures. It had whitewashed walls and a swollen wooden door, a small cross above it. It shared a wall with the main house, and from outside, I noticed something I didn't like. The windows didn't quite match the rooms. There were too many angles, too many repairs, places where stone met plaster, where older walls disappeared into newer ones, where the buildings seemed to have been added to slowly over generations until no one could say exactly where one part ended and another began. The owner noticed me looking. Then she smiled and opened the front door. My rooms were on the first floor, which was also the main living floor. There was a bedroom, a kitchen, a bathroom, a narrow sitting room, and a hallway that ran longer than it should have from the entrance to the door at the far end. That far door led downstairs. Above me were extra rooms I wouldn't need, a few bedrooms, another bathroom, a small sitting area with covered furniture, and a stale, clean smell, like rooms kept ready for people who never came. However, downstairs was different. The owner opened the hallway door and led me down a curved staircase. The air cooled immediately. It smelled of stone, laundry detergent, old wood, and wine. At the bottom were storage boxes, a washing machine, shelves of bottles, and several closed doors with dark metal handles. "Storage," she said, pointing. "Work area. Nothing you need." She said it gently, but it still landed like a warning. Outside, beside the house, there was a garage I wasn't allowed to use. Her father came by sometimes, she explained. He kept tools there, did repairs, used it as a workshop. That seemed normal. The only thing that bothered me was the door between my hallway and the downstairs stairs. It closed, but it didn't lock. When I asked about the key, the owner looked annoyed for less than a second, then smoothed her face. "That key is missing," she said. "But it's fine. No one comes through there." No one comes through there? I wish I had paid more attention to the way she said it. What did she even mean? The first evening was ordinary. I unpacked, I made tea, I wrote notes at the kitchen table while the light outside faded from gold to blue. The house clicked around me as it cooled. Pipes knocked, wood shifted. Somewhere in the chapel wall, something gave a tiny pop, like an old joint stretching. I told myself I liked it. Character, history, atmosphere. That's why I am here in the first place, right? It's not like I have money to move out and find another place. Then one day, the first sound woke me before dawn. I opened my eyes in the dark, unsure where I was. Then the room came back to me. The wardrobe, the suitcase, the chair by the wall, the hallway lamp glowing beneath the door. Oh, right, I am in Portugal. The sound came from below. A door closing, not slamming. Closing carefully, but with weight. I waited for footsteps. Nothing. In the morning, I made coffee and decided it had been the wind. Nothing serious. But the second time, the sound was closer. It came from the hallway. A short scrape, like furniture moved an inch and then stopped. I opened my bedroom door. The hallway was empty. The downstairs door stood closed at the far end. The kitchen was empty. The sitting room was empty. The bathroom was empty. As I turned back toward my bedroom, something tapped once through the chapel wall. Just one fading knock, then a creak above me. I stood barefoot in the hallway, listening. I had no idea which direction to look for the sounds. That was when I first realized the sounds in that house didn't travel properly. They didn't stay where I put them in my mind. One night, they came from below, another from above, another from inside the wall near my bed, muffled and close, as if someone were moving behind the plaster. I was most afraid of the basement, of course. Isn't that where ghosts normally live in horror movies? It had the cold air, the mysterious locked doors, the bottles, and the curved staircase. They all contributed to the eerie atmosphere. Then the power started cutting out during the second week. Always at night. Great. The fuse box was downstairs, which meant I had to open the hallway door, go down the curved stairs, and walk into the basement alone. The first time it happened, I laughed because panic felt childish. "Come on, you are an adult," I said into the dark. The house swallowed my voice. My phone flashlight only showed pieces of the basement at a time. Stone wall, laundry machine, bottles, closed door, another closed door. The kind of dark corner that seems to absorb light rather than receive it. I flipped the fuse back. The lights and the buzzing noise returned. But before I went up, I turned toward the storage doors and had the sudden urge to check if they were locked. They were all shut. Of course they were. Then paranoia pushed me into this vicious circle of noticing every little thing. Something happened. I checked. Nothing was there. The house never gave me enough evidence to prove anything, only enough to make me feel ridiculous. So I started leaving small markers. A chair placed straight against the sitting room wall. The upstairs bathroom door left fully open. The upstairs bathroom was the first thing that truly frightened me. I never used it. There was no reason to. It had a narrow tub, a cracked mirror, and a frosted window facing the chapel side of the house. Even in dry weather, the room smelled faintly damp. One afternoon, I went up there and found the shower curtain pulled halfway across the tub, just enough to hide the inside. I stood in the doorway, angry at myself for being ridiculous again. Then I crossed the tiles and pulled the curtain back. Empty. That night, I called the owner. I told her about the sounds, the fuse, the bathroom. She said old houses carried noise strangely. Her father sometimes used the garage. Wind could move things. Pressure could shift doors. I almost asked how pressure pulled a shower curtain across a dry tub, but I didn't. There is a special kind of loneliness in being scared and realizing the person listening has already decided you are the unreasonable part of the story. Then, a few days later, I came back from grocery shopping and found the downstairs door open. Not wide, only slightly. That made it worse. A slightly open door looks like someone tried to close it and failed. I stood there with grocery bags cutting into my fingers. I knew I had shut it before leaving. I remembered the handle in my hand. I remembered pulling once to make sure it had caught, because by then I was remembering everything. That night, I took a drinking glass from the kitchen and placed it on the floor in front of the basement door. If anyone opened it, the glass would tip over. That was the whole plan. It looked pathetic on the old floor. What am I doing? But as I stepped back, I thought, what would I do if I heard the glass fall? Jump out the window? What's the point of this? Sometime before dawn, I woke to a scrape. Glass against the floor. Not falling. Sliding. My eyes opened, but I didn't move. The sound came again, slower this time, then stopped. I stared at the light under my bedroom door. No shadow crossed it. No footsteps came down the hallway. The house held itself still. Then the downstairs door clicked. One small click. A latch being tested. After that, nothing. I stayed in bed until morning. The glass was still standing when I checked, but it had moved a few inches to the side, just enough for the door to open without knocking it over. I lost my cool and called the owner to demand the missing key. She came that afternoon with her father. He was an older man with rough hands and a face that gave nothing away. He looked at the downstairs door, then at me, then along the hallway toward my bedroom. The owner repeated the same explanations. Old house, garage, strange acoustics. Maybe the floor sloped. Maybe I had moved the glass myself. Then, the missing key was miraculously found. She said it was in a drawer near the entrance, just like that. She held it up with a little smile, as if the house had been caught misbehaving and forgiven. The key was large, dark, and heavy. When she placed it in my palm, it was cold. That night, I locked the downstairs door for the first time. The sound of the lock turning was solid and satisfying. Metal inside metal. I kept the key beside my bed. Then, because fear becomes a habit before it becomes proof, I put the glass in front of the door again. For over 2 weeks, nothing happened. No scrape, no click, no door closing before dawn, no fuse cutting out. The house went quiet so completely that I almost believed the lock had solved it. Almost. But then, while brushing my teeth, I heard a soft creak above the ceiling. Not near the locked door, above me. Another night, the upstairs sitting room smelled faintly of candle smoke. The chapel had been locked all day. I told myself not every sound mattered. I wanted the locked door to be enough. Whoever or whatever was coming into the house no longer had access. Every night, I placed the glass in front of it. Every morning, I found it there. Until the last night. I woke before dawn. The room was dim. The hallway light bled under the door. I reached toward the nightstand for my phone without opening my eyes fully. My fingers touched glass. Cold, smooth, empty. For 1 second, my mind tried to save me. It told me I had moved it. It told me I was dreaming. It told me anything except the truth. Then I sat up, gasping for air like I had been drowning. The drinking glass was on the nightstand beside my bed, placed neatly close to my head. I got out of bed slowly. The floor was cold under my feet. I opened the bedroom door. The hallway was empty. The downstairs door was shut. The lock was still turned. The key was still on my bedside table. And in front of the downstairs door, where the glass should have been, there was only a faint circular mark in the dust. I stood there in the hallway, pale, while the house waited around me. For months, I had imagined the danger below me, behind the storage doors. I had given my fear a shape because I needed it to have one. But the sounds had never belonged to one place. And that's when the realization hit me. I hadn't locked something out. I had only locked the wrong door. That something had been inside the house with me the whole time.